Welcome, truth seekers and trailblazers, to the Bigfoot, Wildman, and Boogers show, the podcast where shadows move, legends breathe, and Bigfoot might be closer than you think. Every week, we trek deep into the woods, diving into the eyewitness accounts, breaking down the evidence, and exploring the mysteries behind North America's most mysterious cryptid.
We're here to bring you real encounters and all the wild, weird, and wonderful things that go along with Bigfoot, Wildman, and Boogers. Whether you're a diehard believer, a backyard camper, or just curious, we're thrilled to have you with us.
Before we begin, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It helps us grow the tribe and bring even more wild encounters out of the woods and into your ears. Now, grab your gear, steady your nerves, and let's take that first step into the woods with the gentlemen of Pathfinders. This is Randy, Mark, and Mike.
Woo.
Hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
So many boys. Look at you all.
All right, guys. This is the first time we've had this many guests on, so we're excited.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So what I would like for you guys to do is, introduce yourselves and then tell us how you got into Bigfoot. What got you started? What got you where you're at?
Who's going first?
Let's let Mike go first.
All right.
Okay. So my name's Mike Smith, and I've been a outdoorsman my whole life. Been down here in Kentucky. Moved down here in 1988. I was an Army brat, so had been coming here every summer of my life. So this is home. And man, I tell you what, I was interested in all this stuff. I read every book on Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster. Locally, we have one called The Bell Witch. I did a book report on the Bell Witch. Yeah,
I'm
in third grade.
Bell Witch here in a couple of weeks. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So I really was into that, but having up to 2020, having been in the woods and not really seeing anything out of the ordinary, I didn't think everybody was lying. I knew people weren't lying. And so I kind of in the back of my head knew something was there, but I wanted to see it. And I'll give you the short version. And what's neat about this is you can go to the Kentucky Bigfoot Research Organization's YouTube. And then there, it's been several years, but he called it the Beast of LBL. Guy named Charlie Raymond. You guys might know him. I
know Charlie.
I called him at 11 o'clock at night, the night of my sighting. And he called me back. And we met. COVID was going on, so we met several months later. But they were able to go to this site, stay overnight. They got the howls and the screams and the knocks, and it's all on there. So my account and then their overnight is on there. Really cool stuff. But basically, we were fishing, my wife and I, and my 3 daughters. And we had bought a boat the year before COVID. And so this is May 10th of 2020. And we'd been out on the 9th, out on the main lake of Kentucky Lake. So if you don't know, look at a map of Kentucky there in far western Kentucky, you can see the 2 lakes. And the farthest west one is Kentucky Lake. And that thing can be really nice one day, and it was on the 9th, but the next day there was wind and 3-foot swells. But we had wanted to be out, especially my wife. So I guess my infant daughter was 6 months at the time, 6 months old, 6 or 7 months old. And so I knew a little place that we could go. We drove down a 2-mile road down in land between the lakes, nobody on the road. The boat ramp was closed because of COVID. I just kind of put my boat off the bank, really, in a spot, and weren't really catching much, weren't really fishing, weren't doing well. Beached up on the bank, built a campfire. We're going to cook hot dogs. That's usually what we would do. And my 16-year-old daughter, she did get out on the bank and fish a little. And at one point, I hear walking up on the ridge behind us. And I asked the girls, it was strange because the north-south trail, the hiking trail, was about a mile from there. There was nobody should have been around. But I said, girls, keep your eye out. I think I hear people up there. 20, 30 minutes later, we eat the hot dogs. We're actually loading up the boat. And as I'm fixing to push it off, I had it tied up to a little tree. We hear a knock. Just one clear knock right up behind us. And they all look up. And what is that? And I kind of laughed. I had seen Finding Bigfoot. I'll admit I'd watched him again. I was interested. I looked down and there was a good solid stick. So I just knocked on this little tree. About 100 yards down the bank, we hear another knock. And they're like, what is this? And I still think, look, there was people walking, it's kids, they're messing with us. So we're going to go down the bank now and look in this little inlet and look up there and see what we see. And I tell you what, it's neat. You can see this on the video when we went back with Charlie. There's a spot where the sunlight just comes through the canopy. And I looked up there and there was a Bigfoot. And I said, holy, there's Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
And they're asking me where. And when I said it, this thing stepped back behind a big tree. And I turned the boat to get my wife. So, my wife's on this side of me. When I cut this way and the bow of the boat went to the right, it moved away from us. And I'm pointing and they can't see it. So I spun in a circle and now I'm headed out and it came back down. It came through a gully. We saw some trees shaking and my oldest daughter was able to see these trees shaking. We thought at the time, I knew nothing about them. I knew nothing. So I thought this thing was pulling itself up the gully and making the trees move. But we think now there was a second one just shaking the trees.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, we got about 38 yards from it when it comes down in this gully. And then they never could see it. We're drifting down the bank. I just put the boat in neutral and turned it off. And we're drifting down the bank. And I'm gathering myself. And I kind of wanted to just go fishing farther away. And my wife really didn't want to. We could see the truck and we could see the ramp. And so I said, all right, let's just go over to the other side at least and get off this side. They were kind of shaking. Well, when I hit the engine, so my ears ring all the time. I always say this, I have tinnitus. So I'm facing away from the bank over here where we had the sighting. My engine's going. When I turned it on, it yelled and it screamed at him. And my 16-year-old daughter and my wife immediately look at each other and they go, what was that? That was a scream. And she's like, get out of here, because she thought it was coming. And you could see where it could have gone in the woods and come around. And so she's like, get to the truck. And I got to the truck and luckily, to make her feel better, a car was then coming down the road and she just kind of felt better. And man, I mean, we were shaking. This thing was, now we know, we sent a guy up in there, Brett Sibley, about 8 feet tall.
Okay.
4 feet wide, at least. The width for me is just what has really, we're not used to that. We see big football and basketball players, but the width, huge chest, reddish brown, the hair changed color. When it was up in the sunlight, it was like blondish.
Right.
And then when it got down in the gully, it was what I would call dark brown. And so Charlie was gracious enough to take me and my daughter out with them and show me some stuff. And in the interim, I had talked to my dad. My dad's a Green Beret, retired military. I'd been all over the eastern United States in the woods with him my whole life. And he said, son, if you've seen that thing and you see how fast it is and big it is and imposing it is, if it had wanted you, it would have gotten you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And Charlie also doesn't really believe that they're mean and that they're after people and to really, really harm people is their main goal. So those two influences, then I go out with Charlie and I'm like, this is amazing. And now I've just got to learn, as an outdoorsman, I want to know what's out there with me and what I have to be prepared for. And
Right.
I tell people all the time, it's like, if I'm going to Alaska, I'm going to be an expert on bears. I just am before I set foot out there.
Right.
So I took that approach, and it's been something my family and I have been able to do together. I've made some great friends and had some more great experiences, some scary, some not. So that's what happened with me.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, absolutely. So Randy, do you want to go next and tell us how you got where you're at?
Yeah. It's been a pretty long journey. I haven't ever had a sighting. mainly vocalizations and things of that nature. But I'll go way back when I was a kid, probably in like the 7th or 8th grade. That was a long time ago. There was a TV show called Here Come the Brides. I bet none of you have you heard of it?
I have not.
I have.
Nope.
Okay. That goes back to probably like 1970, something like that.
Okay.
It was a story about a group of loggers in Oregon, or it might have been Washington State. It was the Pacific Northwest. And they didn't have any wives. They like brought in these women that could be their potential wives. And there were some heartthrob characters on that show, like Bobby Sherman. You ever heard of Bobby Sherman?
Yes.
Oh, he was like a heartthrob.
Oh, my mother loved Bobby Sherman.
David Soul.
He became a cop.
He certainly did. They were on that show, and it was a lot of fun. But they had one episode that involved Bigfoot.
Oh,
and
okay.
That caught my attention. Now I've seen that episode since in modern day, and it's horrible. I mean, it's like the Bigfoot is horrible.
Right.
It's not good
But
at all.
in the memory of you as a child, it was like the greatest thing
it's
you've
like,
ever
I'm like,
seen. It
what's
was the
that
greatest
all
piece
about?
of film.
yeah.
And but that led to the same thing that most people got into, the Leonard Nimoy thing, of course, Patterson, Gimlin. There's just been tons of shows, and I've watched them all, and really, fueled my interest in the subject. I never was into like researching until probably the last 4 or 5 years. And what really got me wanting to be a researcher and to learn truth was Sasquatch Chronicles, which I was obsessed with, but also a gentleman named Kerry Arnold.
Mm-hmm.
Kerry Arnold had a wonderful podcast, and he would go out and interview people in their locations.
He was amazing. Yeah.
I watched him pretty much every.
Uh-oh.
Froze up.
Community.
Sorry.
Back.
We lost you you watched Carrie, and then you froze on us. Pick up from there.
Yes, until the day he died, that he was killed in that accident. So that was a great loss. But from Kerry Arnold, I became acquainted with another group called Beast TV. They were doing a podcast. It was Larry Porch Jr. and Mark Newbill. They were friends of Kerry's, and they had a good show. And they were involved with a group called the Woodwalkers, who mainly came out of Alabama, but also from other states. And I went to one of their meet and greets in, I don't remember how many years ago that was, and met so many nice people, got so many contacts.
Yes.
Met people like Greg House, Spencer Jameson, Misty Hayes, Coombo Baker, who is to me like a godfather, along with Martin in the community. Went on my first expedition in 2021 with Charlie Raymond up in Eastern Kentucky. Very first time me and my wife had ever been out in the woods at night. It was with Charlie and Lindsay, and lo and behold, we get a vocalization response.
Yeah.
I would consider that beginner's luck. So we were pretty much locked in at that point. Since then, we've been on 4 expeditions with Charlie, one with Lori Wade, Lori Wade. And actually, that's where I got to meet Mike the first time. I'd seen him on Small Town Monsters, stuff like that. Got to meet him at one of Charlie's expeditions. And he was gracious enough to share information with me and share some of his spots and things he discovered. It was just wonderful. We were really impressed with Mike and felt honored to be his compatriot. Met Mark later on through Facebook, since he's a local, and met him at another gathering. I don't remember what that was, a Squatch Out, I think. And then Mike, Mark, myself, we all got hooked up at that one, got to know each other, and from that, it's kind of spawned into this Pathfinder thing. I told my wife what I really wanted to accomplish. I saw all these other groups and great researchers and stuff like that. What I really wanted to do was to hook up with some local people that I could trust, that were truthful, that had experience, and develop a relationship with them and go into the woods with them to discover things.
Absolutely.
And that's what we have accomplished with Pathfinders. So I'll leave it right there.
Well, that's great. That's what we all hope to accomplish, you know, is that. So, all right, Mark, well, you're up. So tell us how you got into this.
Well, my goal is to be as knowledgeable, and I'll say it, as cool as Mike and Randy. I got a long way to go on both of those. Child of the 70s, saw Sasquatch, The Legend of Bigfoot, the docudrama, and Legend of Boggy Creek, and that instilled a seed. Didn't do anything with it because I spent 37 years in law enforcement. Never had anything except for one time while on duty in Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. I did have a paranormal experience, and I had a ghost or a shadow person disappear in front of me and a detective that we were working on this burglary.
Wow.
Beyond that, I listened to Art Bell Coast to Coast for many, many years on patrol and with my canine. So I got a wide variety of ghosts and Bigfoot and conspiracies and EVPs. And when my daughter and son-in-law started Night Vision Paranormal in 2017, after they had made a trip to Waverly Hills, and they got some good EVPs, and so they started a group, and I joined sometime after that. We just strictly did ghost stuff because that's their preferred. But on our logo, it's got Bigfoot and Dogman, and I was like, well, that's really my underlying interest. So I was promoted to the lead field investigator of the cryptid division of Night Vision Paranormal. We all work together on this, and I live 15 minutes from the LBL. The other guys are pretty close too. So I'm in there all the time. All but 7 years of my life, I've lived in Western Kentucky, Paducah, McCracken County, Marshall County, Livingston County. So I grew up there, never had any sighting of any kind until May of this year. I've been hitting it hot and heavy quite a few times going solo because I didn't know Larry, and I didn't know Mike. I'm Randy, and didn't know Mike and Rick and the other guys that go out with us now. So I'd go solo. So I got my one and only picture of a dark figure that is believed to be a dog man, and been going back ever since, and been blessed to hang out with Mike and Randy and some of the other people from the Squatch Out, Chris and Gary Blaylock, and a whole lot of very interesting people, and now Martin Groves, and he has joined Pathfinders as well. So we're all very lucky, I think, to get to learn from him, and he's such a nice guy. Just love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Got to meet Martin when we were in the LBL, and that was the first time that I had ever been down there. And yeah, we had some interesting things happen to us the one night that we were out, because first of all, I had no clue where we were at. Couldn't find it again if I had to. I mean, I have never seen a place that has so many cemeteries in it. But we loved it. You know, we want to come back and go back in there and do things. But yeah, that's just definitely an interesting place for sure. I mean, it's so big and so vast, and like I said, I'd heard a lot of things about the LBL, and I was like, okay, whatever. I'm kind of one of these, you know, I'm from the show me state, so I have to be shown, you know. Yeah, I got shown a few things that night, so you know, I have a little more, you know, when I go in there now, I'm like, okay, yeah. You know, but yeah. So, okay. So you guys have been out together. Tell me some things, you know, that have happened to you. What do you think's, you know, one of the substantial things that you guys have come across since you started going out together?
Well, Mike has pretty much taken the lead on that. Him and Randy have gone out and gotten some interesting pictures and some interesting things. Maybe you want to talk about that, Mike?
Yeah, well, I think we've had several sightings. My wife and my two young daughters go out. I mean, I've got a spot I can almost guarantee you we're going to find some footprints. Randy found one. I put this stuff on my Facebook, and Randy's, hey, I'm coming tomorrow. We're casting that one. And
Hey, I can bring that cast up here and show it to you guys if you want to see it.
yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
it's neat. I got one. I wasn't into the dog man stuff. Now, I had always been, when I moved down here in '88 as a 16-year-old, we were told you don't go out at night, don't go by yourself. It was wild men,
Yeah.
serial killers,
Yeah.
believe it or not. It
Right.
was
Well,
people.
yeah,
It
I've
was
heard the story. Yeah.
Yep, it was people that were there that had been kicked out but had not left and were resentful, and then actually witches
Mm-hmm.
were the big things that were going on over there. And I've validated for small town monsters that I had at least heard about the massacre before the internet.
Yeah. Okay.
One of my first, I've got it behind me. One of my first casting ever. And I was disappointed because they don't come out like you see them on TV. I learned that.
Right.
I much
Right.
prefer pictures. But I sent this to Dr. Meldrum, and he was able to look at the video. He didn't analyze the cast, but he looked at. I took very, very well documented. And so him, and he was always so scientific. He's like, well, if this is authentic, and if this is,
Yeah.
these two gentlemen didn't. He made all the caveats, but he said basically it appeared to him to be a footprint, but the mid tarsal break was too far up, and the toes. He said it's a footprint, but it's not a Bigfoot footprint.
Okay.
So I've gotten that, and I've gotten in that area. That's an interesting thing. The coolest thing, though, the cool thing was, and I forgot to send you pictures. I share this a lot. We found a spot. This is just this year. I fish a lot. A lot of my experiences, of course, being in my boat in the springtime, and we drift into this little cove, and my daughter smelled something,
Okay.
and my little daughter, she said, it could be Bigfoot, Dad.
There you go.
And I said, well, we're in the right place for it. Now I'm locked in on getting them fishing. And then my wife, who has had a sighting from long range, just yells out into the wilderness. She says, come on, Bigfoot, just step on out here and let me get a good look at you. And immediately a tree was pushed over. And it wasn't, there was no wind. There was not a storm. It was a great day to be out. And you could hear it crack, 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 kashoosh. So we go back in there, and Randy went with us the next weekend, and we find in one little area deer bones, pig bones, and where turtle eggs had been dug out of a nest. And I've got all this documented. That would explain the smell. We walk into the woods a little bit, and we have found intricate woven wreaths and arches made with vines.
Hey,
all
Charles.
kinds of-
Hey, Mike. If you
Yeah.
remember back when the reason we walked up in there is I can't remember if you heard or you saw something up
Yeah.
on the ridge.
Yeah, I heard it. I heard something up on the ridge, and we go in there. Of course, there's footprints everywhere. And so just in that area, I've had something. Then later on, a few months later, close to there, I had a rock thrown at me right in front of the boat,
Mm-hmm.
We went in. I went in to find the rock, and the girls heard this thing growling and huffing at us, and we heard it crash off through the bushes another day. So we're starting to get a lot of activity in this one area, and that's kind of where we're going to go in and try to document this as a group. But yeah, it was a real interesting spring for me. It really was.
Okay. So where did you guys find this track?
In that area.
In
Yeah.
that area.
Near that area.
Okay.
Yeah. And we've got pictures of it. The pictures, if I should have sent the pictures, you go, oh, you can see the toes. You could see the toes. And I mean, it was just, it's really, and this has been consistent for the last 4 or 5 years. This one little place is just, It's just a good place to be. So I've shared that with Mark. I've shared it with Randy, a few other people. Dusty Gonzalez, great researcher. I'm glad to have him part of Pathfinders as well. He found some tracks close to there just recently, like they were following him.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to make a circle when I'm out by myself, simply because I don't want something to be able to track me going in and out.
Right.
It's actually more of a defensive move, but I get a wide swath. But he likes to go in and then come right back out to see if something was tracking him, and it appears something was. Yep.
Okay, that's interesting. So, with what you guys are doing, are you finding that they are more active at certain times of the year? Do you think they're in there the whole time? Are they moving about? What do you think's going on?
Well, in my area, I think they're more active in the spring in this area, but I do think they're there year round. There's a couple spaces, and we're talking about a 5 mile long, 4 mile wide stretch, that there are certain areas where they're more active, and then you'll go a couple years and there's not much, and then all of a sudden they will be. So I think we've got everything. I think we've got some transient areas. I think we've got this one area in the wintertime. I've had sightings almost every, between November and February. I've had sightings almost every year now. So I think they're holding in this area pretty regularly.
Okay. Well, because that's for us, it's kind of the same way. They will be active from spring to fall. And in the wintertime, and I don't know if it's just because we're not out there as much in the winter, that we're not seeing them as much, or if they're just not as active. But like during the hot part of the summer, they're not real active either.
Yep.
Right.
Yes, ma'am. We found that, and that's one of the things we're going to try to start. The biggest thing we're wanting to do with Pathfinders is start to build some patterns, have multiple groups out in coordination so we can corroborate what we're seeing. We just thought, we all know now we can get out, we can get behind something, we can convince ourselves we're hearing stuff and have a lot of fun, and probably get some cool stuff. We want to, as long as we're going to be out and we're dedicated to this, let's start trying to put, it's different. If 4 people in a small group hear something, people that don't believe, it's always subject to the group delusion thing.
Right.
But if you've got 20 people that have all experienced the same thing, and maybe in different places, and have documented this, then it becomes something. I got to thinking about this. I don't think I've told Mark or Randy, but I was watching the Hulu special on the Murdaugh murders.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
And I mean, basically, circumstantial evidence put that guy away.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it was so strong. It was so strong. And I'm thinking, man, we know we're not going to get one to walk out and shake our hand and say, hey, I'm
wave at you, go, here I am.
Right, exactly.
Looking for me.
Hey, one thing I'd like to add to that, Saturday we were at LBL with Mike, my wife and I, and also my brother-in-law and sister-in-law messing around. And it's cold here right now.
Yeah.
It's very cold. Well, after we left, and it was about 5:15, we were getting close to where we live, which is White House, Tennessee. And I had 2 occasions where I almost hit deer on the road. They were extremely active. I go home and I was taking a bath, and I was on Facebook, and one of my friends who's a big deer hunter, he had posted some trail cam pics of activity on the areas that he hunted. Coyotes, bobcat, deer. I mean, they were just everywhere. And I asked him, why do you think they're active right now? And he said, because they're cold and they're hungry. And so it could be that, we're not out when it's real cold like that, so we don't have any sightings. But I'm beginning to think it may be a good time to catch some activity from these creatures, because they got to eat too. They got to stay warm.
Yeah, absolutely. So we did a BFRO expedition over Halloween this year, and it was the coldest weekend in Missouri. It was awful. It was awful.
Horrible.
And we had all kinds of activity. We had screaming going on, we had some activity in our camp, all kinds of stuff. And it was bitterly cold. I was kind of thinking, we're probably not going to have a whole lot of activity. It's too cold. Yeah, well, I was wrong. We had activity. We had activity every night that we were out, and then back in the camp also. Wow. So yeah, it's when you think you figured it out, they mess with you and change it all.
Yep.
And like you were talking about having a big group together, we did an expedition in Arkansas in September, and we were in a very, very remote, small, private campground. And there was like 3 cabins, it was not a very big place. And at first we're like, my God, the amount of acorns fallen is ridiculous, right? And it takes a little while for this to click in for us. And finally, not only myself, but another gentleman, we were walking around the cabin and there weren't any acorns on the ground, not to the amount that should be there from the amount of noise, right?
Yeah.
Then we're looking around, what else could be falling? Well, there was hickory nut tree. There were hardly any hickory nuts. So we did an experiment. We threw an acorn on top. Wasn't quite making the sound we were hearing. We threw a hickory nut on the roof. Was not the sound. We threw a small rock on the roof, and that was the sound. They were in the woods throwing rocks on the metal roof of the cabin, and they did it all weekend. All weekend.
First time we've heard that.
Yeah. And we were like, are you kidding? So we would leave for a little while in the evening just because we were trying to do the same thing every night. Right. We'd leave for about an hour. We'd come back, sit around the fire, and then we would like disperse through the camp type thing. And so we'd had rain every day, and not for a long time, but we had rain. And finally it is Saturday. And I told my husband, the lady that had rented the cabin, she had to leave early. So we put our tent away. It was good and dry. So we put it away and we're like, you know what? We're going to sleep on the screened in front porch.
Yeah.
Yeah. I woke up at about 2:30 in the morning, had to go to the bathroom. And I'm laying there contemplating this because the porch had a door and you had to go out that door onto another porch to get into the house. And it was one of those old screen doors that everyone in the camp was going to hear when I opened it.
Right.
There was no getting out of this door and it not making that sound. Right. And so I'm contemplating all of this when the side of the cabin gets slapped so hard, I about jumped out of my cot.
Wow.
So I'm sitting there and my husband kind of rolls over and goes, was that you? And I'm like, nope. But you're awake, so I'm going to get up and go to the bathroom, Yeah. So I went to the bathroom, came back out, got back in my cot, and I'm laying there, and you can hear them walking around in the pea gravel in front. And people said, why didn't you flash your flashlight? Okay, well, if you up to a screen, you're not going to see anything but the screen.
Yep.
So we're listening. We can hear the movement. We can hear all of this, right? And it was really funny. My husband's laying there and he says, that's not you, right?
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Definitely.
I'm like, I am not moving. This is not me, right?
Not me.
And it was really funny because he laid there for a couple more minutes, gets up and pulls his cot closer to mine.
Yeah.
He's like, I am so creeped out right now. He goes, I feel like we're being watched. I said, we are. We are.
I tell you what, and I tell you, in Mark's picture that he has, and I know he'll want to talk about here, I have learned they are so much closer to us than people think. We're their entertainment.
Yeah.
And and I've said it before, if you're in LBL, you're being watched. And Mark's got a picture, and what he did was neat. He went back. So whatever it is, it's clearly you're able to see at one point in the space there's a large dark figure. I think there's 2 there. And then when he went back, you can tell that space is not taken up by a dark figure anymore.
Yeah.
And it was right there when he's on the water. And like I say, I'll let him talk about that, but it's just I know he had no idea he was being watched that close before, he got into all this
Mhm.
stuff. But it's amazing. It's amazing how close they get.
Oh,
And that's what
yeah.
Martin Groves tells us too, is that they're right here all the time. He's like, I feel them here and I don't feel it now, but you're being watched all the time. And I hear that a lot. I had no idea I was being watched. So luckily I got a picture. So yeah.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. Well, when we were in the LBL, we went to one of the cemeteries. Well, let me back up a little bit. So during the day, we had been out with this gentleman, and he was just showing us some places, and we had walked this trail. And Chris was with me, Chris Blaylock. And we had walked out, and we were coming back, and all of a sudden it sounds like something drops out of the tree, something large. And I kind of turned and looked at her, and she said, yeah, I heard that too. I said, okay. And he caught us, and he said, what? And we're like, we heard something. It sounded like something dropped out of the tree. And his eyes kind of got big. He's like, okay. And he's hollering for his wife, right? He wants her like right next to him. We're like, okay. And we keep walking. And we heard it again. We'd probably gone another 200 or 300 feet down the trail when it did it again. And Chris and I looked at each other again. And he looked at us, he goes, that's it, double time. And I mean, we were like booking it out of the woods, We're like, what?
Yep.
I mean, and later he told us that one day him and his, the guy that he goes with all the time, they had walked out onto this point in the woods. They're about 100 yards apart. And he said, all of a sudden they heard thud, 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 thud. It was like about 5 of them in a semicircle in front of them. Yep. And he said, at that point, we just started backing out because he said, we knew we weren't supposed to be in there, that there was something there with us. And we were like, okay, well, that makes sense. If you'd have told us that sooner.
Right.
But we went back to that same area. Talk about fools. We went back to the same area at night, right? And when we get there in the cemetery that's there's a light bouncing around, And so I think there was 6 of us, and they've got a couple of high-powered lights that they're shining, right? And they catch something, and I grabbed his shoulders because I was standing behind him, and I pointed him back at it. I said, what is that? He goes, that's a stump. I said, no, I don't think that's a stump. So he held his light on it, and he would move to get different angles on it, right? And so he comes back over and he goes, yeah, that's not a stump. I said, that's what I just told you. Yeah. Whatever this was, I don't believe it was facing us because we never saw eyes.
Right.
I think we had the back side of it, and it was standing perfectly still. Yep. It didn't move, but it was large and brown and at the very edge of the cemetery.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So, we were kind of like, okay. So we got back in the trucks. But when we were pulling up to the cemetery, there's 2 different trucks. We had the window down, and we heard a bell. Both trucks heard that bell in the middle of the woods. We were like, okay.
You asked earlier about things that we've encountered while being out together in Land Between the Lakes. One thing that I've become obsessed with, and it's all because of Mike, is is tree structures, but it's not the ones like you're thinking about. Like people find the big teepees and massive X's and stuff like that. We see that also, but he turned me on to these like smaller, like formations, figurines and things made with sticks on the ground, tree bows, glyphs. And so, it just opened things up for me because I was always looking for footprints, but I never thought much about that stuff. But once he opened my mind up to that, we have managed to find some areas where that seems to be pretty prevalent. An area that he goes to a lot that he shared with me. There were some. You go back later and they're gone. But maybe farther down into the valley, you find new ones, different types of formations with the sticks and stuff. And I find that very interesting. I know he does.
Oh yeah.
we were at a place, what was it, 2 Saturday nights ago, that you went up in the woods and we got that knock, and then you and Lou found that structure up there. We go back and find this tree structure, which is basically, it's like maybe 4 or 5 sticks that form these different intricate patterns. I mean, it's obvious it's not a natural thing because of the type of wood that's in it, or the multiple types of wood that are in it. Yep. But as we started looking around in the daytime on this ridge, we found all kinds of other, I say all kinds, maybe another 4 or 5 things that were interesting, from, a tree that was bowed over, and at the base of the bow, an X. It's fascinating to me. And, you're in an area, you see all that stuff, and you walk a little ways farther, and you don't see it anymore. Right. You go to another area, you don't see it anymore. So those are the kind of things I'm spending even more time looking at now after learning about them.
Now, admittedly, I struggle with the tree structures and all that, trying to find logical explanations. And what kind of cover does these sticks give? And they don't give any cover from rain or snow or sun, or, are they symbolic or whatever? Sure. But the wreaths that Mike and Randy found, it takes no interpretation at all. They are woven wreaths. Yes. Nowhere near where people go. And, you don't have to just like, well, what could this possibly be? It's very clearly what they are, the reason, but why were they there? Right. Who or what made them? And I think you said it's nowhere near any trails where anybody would be walking through. No. And you found other signs in that area. So I think that part is extremely fascinating to me.
Well, and also the fact that Mike went back with Ray, a week or 2 after that, and tell them what you found. They're gone.
Yeah, Big Ray. Yeah, they're gone. They moved. See, I don't take this stuff. I met a guy up in Pennsylvania. I spoke up there at a conference, and he takes this stuff, the stuff that's small, reassembles it, and it's really, he puts it in his booth, so it's educational, nice. But I don't know if that's. I feel like it's like it's juveniles. Like, my daughters come home, especially my 6-year-old, with something she's made in class for me every day. Mm-hmm. And I really get to feel like this is just juveniles being told, stay in this area, occupy yourself, we'll be back. Mm-hmm. And I know what young kids would do in the woods if we had to play there all day. We'd have little guns made out of sticks and forts. And so I don't want this to be, hey, Mom, I made you this, come check it out, and then it's gone.
Right.
Or it's ceremonial. Because I believe every time you're in the woods, I believe they've got eyes on you. I really do. Yep. So we leave them be.
I think that's a good idea too, because we don't know what it is. And, what if it really is symbolic or it's of some kind of importance to them, and you're picking it up and trotting off with it, you're probably not going to be real welcome back in that area.
You're being aggressive towards them and their territory. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's just like somebody walking into your house and seeing something going, oh, hey, I like this, and walking out with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's kind of how I feel about it. It's like we're in their home when we're out there. We try to be very respectful, not do stupid stuff, not blatantly stupid stuff. Some people think it's stupid to be in the woods, but
right. But that not, you don't go out of your way to be an ass.
No, no, absolutely not, but because those things like that, we have no clue what that stuff is. And I'm kind of like you, Mark. I struggle with a certain amount of the tree structures, because I have to look at it and always go, okay, we're here. Other humans could have, on the off chance, other humans could have been here, but then there are things that sometimes you look at and go, a human couldn't do that, so it's half one dozen the other. It's definitely interesting, to say the least, with those things, so it's like you just document it and you keep on going, because somebody, like I've got a good buddy, Shane Carpenter, who was finding holes with sticks in them. and they're just small holes, but these little sticks are in them, like they've been digging this hole. And he is wondering if it's juveniles, right? You know, doing something,
Digging. Yeah.
just digging to entertain themselves. Well, we were together when we found one, and then I have started to find them, and I'll take pictures and shoot it to. He's like, "Where are you at?" Well, I'm from, you know, but it has made me aware to look for these holes with sticks in them. Yeah. You know, they're whether they're killing time or they're digging for bugs, I don't know. But
Saturday, Mike and I were exploring this ridge over by Jones Creek, and saw some interesting things. But one thing I spotted and he did was this stick that was stuck into the ground. It was an old punky looking stick, like you could probably easily break it, but it was stuck in the ground about 2 inches. There was no bark on it except for up near the top, and there was bark that was around it. It's almost like someone had made a handle with the bark. And I asked him about it, and he said, I see that all over here. Huh. And it's too light of a stick that it would have fallen and stuck into the ground. And somebody or something must have stuck it there. Yeah. But the fact that it was sort of decorated really was curious to me.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. That's interesting. I mean, we were on an expedition in Kentucky one time. It was one of Charlie Raymond's, and we had been with a group during the day. We didn't go back out with them at night. My husband wasn't feeling real well. We'd stayed in base camp, and they got down there, and one of the logs that we had crawled over during the day, when they went back that night, right on the other side of it in the middle of the trail was a very large limb shoved in the ground.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah. And they were like, okay, we're not going any farther. We know that. We know what that means.
Nope. Right.
They did kind of get ushered out. There was something following them and making noises and growling at them and things like that. So yeah, we've kind of come across that before too. So that's interesting. And that wasn't decorated, but it was shoved into the ground, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So interesting things.
Since y'all are from Missouri, I wonder if you know a gentleman named Lou Padilla. You just answered my question. He's a Pathfinder.
Well, Lou's a lot of things. No.
I love Lou. He's a great guy.
I met Lou in 2019 on the very first expedition I ever did. And I call Lou my welcome wagon now because, you know, he's BFRO and he comes and does all of our things, you know. But Lou, I love Lou because Lou he is a storyteller. Oh my gosh. You know, he's got a story for every place he's ever been.
Yeah.
You know, but I talked to him 2 days ago. He just got back from Seattle, you know, and we talk quite often. He's quite a character. You know?
Unique.
Well said.
Well, and you guys all know John Harbold also, right?
Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, those two are like attached at the hip. I can sorry for John's wife, Vicky. She's got a lot of patience there.
Yeah, she does.
You know, one thing I'd like to add in my quest to learn more about this, I've actually become acquainted with not just one group, but multiple groups of people. I hate to say it. I don't like cliques. I never did like that sort of thing. But there are maybe not cliques, but certain groups of people that run together, like the Woodwalkers that I mentioned earlier, mainly from Alabama, but other states. Great group of people. The people that come to Charlie's expeditions, there's usually a lot of the same people coming back because it's good stuff. Spent time with Lori Wade, another total different group of people. And the more you kind of like spread yourself out, I mean, you don't want to get yourself too thin, but there's so many interesting people out there to get acquainted with and to learn from.
Absolutely.
If you just stick your neck out, and which is hard for me because I'm an introvert, not an extrovert. And so this is one of the most exciting things I've done as far as getting to know, like more people, new people.
Absolutely. And I think it's really important. That's one of the things that I talk about a lot. In the quest for Bigfooting, I have made some of the best friends that I have through Bigfooting. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them came from the very first expedition that we ever went on in 2019. And, you meet people that from different walks of life that you would have never met any other way, because you get all these different people that show up to these events, and it's people that are like-minded, That's the biggest thing in this day and age is, everybody wants to fuss and fight about every little thing. And I mean, that happens in the Bigfoot community too, but for the most part, we're all looking for the same thing, and getting together and being able to go and work with people, that legitimately want to find something. They're not just out there sitting around the campfire poking it, That's the
it's
thing.
Like a Christian support group.
That's
right.
it, right?
Right.
Absolutely. Well, you guys are going to have to come to Missouri. We do a couple of expeditions a year in Missouri. We're also doing expeditions in Arkansas and Oklahoma. So, you guys are definitely have to come out and go with us. We've got a good group of people that go with us a lot, and we're always looking for people to come and talk at the events. I'm always looking for new people that can come to my BFRO events and speak, and teach, things, and people that are boots on the ground that are really doing it. That's what I'm always looking for is those kind of people that are actually out there doing it. They're not just talking about it. They're doing it.
That's right. Well, I think Mark in his retirement, he's going to catch us all. I spend well over 100 days. I mean, half the year I spend out there, and I thought that was a lot. I think he lives there. He says he's got an apartment somewhere else. He's probably in the back of his truck right now.
Probably if he takes the Night Vision shirt off, there's like a park ranger shirt underneath.
Maybe.
He's like, I'm not telling you secrets.
I'm really glad to have the ability to be with Pathfinders now. My Night Vision Paranormal is a family group, and there's kids and school, and they've got church functions, and so that's why I would go out alone pretty often. Now that we've got Pathfinders, we've got a good resource, lots of knowledge, good equipment, energy, motivation. Mike's got a master plan for us for this current research area. We've been pre-scouting. Mike's already been there a bunch, but we've been pre-scouting with Randy and Dusty and Mike. And on the 20th, we actually have our first group shakeout, we'll call it. Meet and greet all the people that we don't already know, go over assignments, responsibilities for team leader, assistant team leader, base camp, communications plans, and do a little training. And we're really looking forward to it. And I think he's put together a good group, and we hope that we don't let him down.
You won't.
Amen.
You won't.
No, I have a feeling you won't let him down. Sounds like you guys have, got you're getting your ducks in a row, and that's really important, and sounds like that you guys have got a plan, and that's always important too, and we'll have to touch base, every so often. You guys come back on and let us know what you're doing and where you've been and what you've found, and, we can do those kind of things because that's what we're about. We're here to share everybody's experiences and what's going on, and talk about these things and put it out there so that, everybody knows what's going on, because what we've been doing for the last 50 some years is not working. We need to do things differently. We need to share, and people sometimes get a little upset when I say that. And I'm not saying that I want your GPS coordinates for your spot. That is not what I'm saying. But what
Right.
I'm saying is if you're sharing everything that's coming out of that spot, there's going to be somebody somewhere who's had the exact same thing happen.
Absolutely. Yep.
And when they see it from like somebody like you, then they're going to be willing to share it.
Yep.
It's like
Yep.
we all have to start working together and quit fighting each other. And that's what's going to eventually push us down the field farther.
Yes, ma'am. And I'll tell you what, I think I still get a little bit of it from my coworkers or but it's in jest. It's not that I'm seriously crazy. So I think the awareness and the acceptance envelope is growing.
Yeah.
I'm convinced. I know personally a lot of people that either have or know people that have video trail cam stuff. I've got some stuff on my phone that a guy sent me from North Carolina. It's awesome. I'm not showing it. I promised him I wouldn't because I think there's people. I think if we do this right and we bring some legitimacy, maybe
Yes.
that evidence we've all been looking for is
Will
going
show
to come
up.
because I
Yeah.
think it's out there. I think
I
it's
think
out
it is too. I've heard too many stories of legit trail cam stuff.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's just that people are so afraid of being ridiculed, they don't want
Yes,
to
ma'am.
show it.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
like I know a gentleman who goes out into the Fouke, Arkansas area, and he sent me a couple of things, and I'm looking at him going, "Holy crap!"
Yes.
So
Yes.
This is my main research partner right here.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank
We live in
you.
the same house, and we still get along.
That's great.
time.
I understand that. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think there's legitimate stuff out there. People are just afraid to share it because, like you said, they don't want to be ridiculed.
That's why on our we're on Pathfinders Public on Facebook. People can find us there, and that's one of the things we said is we're asking for stories, reports, specifically in the LBL, but not exclusively because that's our current research area. But if we get stories from North Carolina or Alabama, or Missouri, we've got contacts with other teams and other investigators, and we can share that out.
Absolutely.
So, and it's a ridicule-free, no judgment. Just tell us your story, and nobody's going to call you a nutcase on Pathfinders Public because that's what we're all about.
Right. Exactly. Yep. And that's just it. It's like, I know you all have heard some outlandish stories too. We just all have, and it's like, you never tell anybody that they're crazy, whether or not you believe it or not. Yeah. But there's probably parts of that story that are legit.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's up to us to, it's up to us to figure that out. I'm sure there's, I've come across a few that, I know they're not legit, but it's like, okay. And usually that happens when you try to follow up with them and they're gone.
Right.
That's right. That's right.
They're just gone. They won't talk to you anymore and that kind of stuff, and you're like, okay, all right. Well, but I did my thing. I followed up. I'm trying to get more of the information. And if I hadn't, I wouldn't know. So, it's just one of those things. But all right, guys. Well, we are hitting our hour. Do any of you have anything else you want to share with us before we sign off tonight?
No, enjoyed it.
Well, I'm so glad. Well, I'm glad you all could come on so short notice. I can't even talk. Short notice. I really appreciate it, and looking forward to have you guys back and getting to see you all in person again at some point. I'm sure we will cross paths. And all the good things. So you gentlemen, I will definitely let you know when this is going to air, and you can stick it all on your social media too. Okay.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for being with us this evening.
Thank
you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
All right. That was very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Okay, tribe. That's all for this episode of the Bigfoot, Wildman, and Boogers show. Thank you for wandering the Missouri woods with us tonight.
If you enjoyed today's encounter and today's encounters and want to keep these legends alive, Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It helps us keep track of the wild and legendary encounters that make this place so special.
We will be back soon with more mysteries, more encounters, and maybe a few surprises hiding in the shadows. Until then, keep your boots muddy, your eyes on the tree line, and remember, show me your Bigfoot.